are you reading pregnancy books or are you just winging it? If you are like me, and I didn't think I'd want to read any pregnancy books, honestly, I didn't think I'd be bothered. I didn't think it'd be something that was for me. I thought we're just kind of gonna wing it and go with it. But I picked up one, and then I picked up another, and then I picked up a couple more, and then I seemed to just be addicted to books and reading. And I think I found it more because I was like, there's all this information that I feel like might help. And it does, it definitely does. But if you don't feel like reading, don't bother. But these are just the books that I'm reading and why. So the first book is probably the most obvious, and I think it's a staple book that maybe every pregnant woman gets. And it is the What to Expect When You're Expecting. It's like the token book. Pretty sure it's the token book of pregnancy. But yeah, I decided to get this because both me and my wife were a bit like, it'll be interesting to know if there's anything in there that we need to kind of make sure is happening, not happening, to look out for, you know, things like that. I think it's more of a things of like, if something happens to me, then I can maybe explain why it's happening, or I can reason myself why. Because obviously I've never had a child before. I think this is a great book to have because it really kind of runs you through the weeks and stuff, and it has a bit more information in there, like when it comes to work and when you should tell work and your boss and things like that. But otherwise that wasn't relevant. I work for myself at home, so that's completely irrelevant to me. But there's a lot of other things that kind of touch on subjects that you can be like, I didn't know that. So then you can then maybe go and have a look at it or speak to your midwife about it and things like that. So obviously it's pretty universal in a sense. Obviously there's certain things that happen in the US in terms of medical reasons and around the world that are different to the UK. So every country is different in the terms of like medical protocols. So make sure that you are checking your local council, your local midwife, your doctors for your specifics, you know, anything that's going on. But otherwise it's a really good base book to have. So there was things in here that I found really interesting, like I noticed in my first few weeks I was like, sounds really horrible and I'm sorry, but I was swallowing a lot. So I was like having a lot of like extra spit in my mouth, and I was like, what is this? What is going on? It's something that was really irritating the both of us. And it turns out that when you first get pregnant, that your body produces more saliva, and that's why I ended up like swallowing more, because I was producing more saliva. So that was something I didn't know until I read it in here. And there's a bunch of other things as well. But yeah, so the main reason is that this is a really good base book. So it's really good for giving you a touch of things that you might need to know or want to know, or just interesting for each kind of stage in the pregnancy. And then if there's anything that you want to research into more, you can do, but at least you know that what you're researching for and that it is a thing and things like that. So yeah, this is a really good base book. So if you're looking for one to just kind of give you a bit of a general knowledge, this is definitely the one. So the next one is the Baby Sleeping Solution. So this one is by Lucy Wolfe, and I'm a really big sleeper. Like, I love my sleep. So I think one of my biggest fears was the fact that I'm like, what am I going to do when the baby wants to be up all the time and I don't want to be up all the time? And I think I was just like, I can be really, really grumpy. And I mean, like, a horrid person when I don't get sleep. I get really tired, I get really emotional, I just cry and I have like a breakdown. So I was like, I don't want to have to deal with that on a daily basis, and furthermore I don't want my wife to have to deal with that on a daily basis. So I decided to get a couple on like different, on sleeping, just so then I could kind of have a bit more of an idea for when the baby arrives, like what I should be doing, shouldn't be doing, anything that can kind of like, any kind of nugget of information. Me and my wife Cora are both really big believers in the fact that anything that you can get information from, like a podcast, a documentary, a book, a magazine, anything that you can get kind of information from, it can often be worth reading or watching or listening to that thing, because you'll more than likely get one nugget of information that was worth it. And it can be really like life-changing or changing to your outlook on something. So I thought the same with the Sleep Solution. So that's why I bought it. Only read so much of it so far, but it's definitely worth trying if you, like me, like your sleep and want to be able to kind of get in a good rhythm with, you know, baby sleeping and things like that. So the next one is by Giovanna Fletcher, Happy Mum, Happy Baby. So obviously this is the wife of Tom Fletcher, the McBusted bandmate. I was never a massive fan, but yeah, so I found this in a charity shop for like £2, and I'd already seen it in WH Smith's for, I think it was like $16.99. I was like, I'd like to read it, but I don't want to pay that much for it. No offense, Giovanna, but I'm trying to save for a baby and I can't afford it. So I found this in a charity shop literally like a day after seeing it in the WH Smith's, and so I thought, why not? I will get it, £2. So I was really pumped because I found it and I've not really been able to put it down. It's really nice, kind of like life story. So I don't really like to read biographies. I'm never really bothered. I think the only one I've ever read is Alan Carr's, and that made me laugh so much because obviously it's Alan Carr. So I've never really been like a celebrity fan. I just like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. But I've never been bothered about reading about them. But I really love this book because it's such a down-to-earth kind of story, like from everything from how they, you know, how they struggled to get pregnant to them getting pregnant, and all the kind of in-betweens, their birth, everything. So I found a lot of information here from her that I was interested in, like hypnobirthing. Not something I'd thought about. I kind of just washed it off and I was like, I'll just go with it and have birth. But this is something that's really stuck with me since reading about it, and it's something I've done a lot more research into. So there's a lot of information in here that you kind of like, I think for me, I'm just enjoying reading people's experiences with giving birth and having children, and kind of knowing that no matter who you are, if you're a mum, you're going through these things. And I think that was one of the things I'm really enjoying about this book. So for me, that's definitely worth a read if you, like me, are kind of intrigued by other people's birth stories and things like that. So yeah, that is definitely worth a read. Book is How to Grow a Baby by Clemmy Hooper. So I'd not done any research on this one. This was just something I found in a charity shop. It was a special like repurposing, reuse, recycle shop for children and baby stuff. And so this one and the next book were in there. They were actually for free. You could take up to 3 books free, but we left a donation anyway because we didn't buy anything else. But I found this book and I was like, oh, well, since they were free because we donated some money, I thought I'll pick up a couple and see what they're like. So I picked up this one and the one that I've got next I'll show you. And I thought it'd be interesting to read because this is actually by somebody who's here in the UK. Clemmy is a trained midwife, and so she has all the details and all the ins and outs of all the things that you need to know, and it's just a really nice light read. I found that the chapters and things, like, they're just really simple. They might be as long as just 2 pages. So I found them really like bite-sizable things to read. She does break them down into like weeks, so this one's like 28 weeks. And she put in loads of like really useful information. So like at one point I was struggling with things like what to wear and what to buy to wear because I didn't want to buy a load of maternity clothes. And she did a section on that, which I found really helpful. And she's got in here like other people's stories. So she's got stories from other mums and other birth stories. And I've just found it really interesting, especially because it's UK based. Obviously I'm here in the UK, so a lot of this is very relevant to me and what I'm going through and what I'm experiencing with my midwife and my doctors. So I really enjoyed this one. If you are based in the UK, it's definitely a good read. Definitely go and get it. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can find it. And yeah, it's just really nice and light and breezy, and she's had 4 kids of her own. But yeah, because she's a midwife, I found it really nice. Like, there's a chapter on should you find out the sex of the baby, and I think that's really nice because that's something obviously a lot of people will worry about or think about, and there's all these different things that I think she's highlighted that are great, because it's not something necessarily you find in the What to Expect When You're Expecting book, but it's still nice to read about. So definitely check that out. It's definitely worth a read. And then the final book I bought for now, there's probably still a couple that I'm going to get yet, but the final book I've bought is What to Expect the First Year. So this is from the same place I got the Clemmy Hooper book from, and so I thought obviously at some point we're going to want to know some information about a newborn, and probably better to read it before the newborn's here, right? Like, otherwise you're kind of just reading the manual while trying to, I was just like, I'm not going to have time to read this when the baby's here, I'm pretty sure. So I was like, if I can cram it in now, probably better had. So I got it now. So I thought I'll try and get some reading in before the baby's here. I'll probably read this during labour at some point because I'll have lost track of time. So I got this. I've not read much of it yet, just bits and pieces, but it's definitely worth reading if you, like me, liked the fact that you got kind of like a base information from the What to Expect When You're Expecting book. This is pretty much the same. There's a lot of other ones you can get, but this was just like because I'd already done the What to Expect When You're Expecting, I kind of just thought, why not, I'll go with this one too. And yeah, so it's got some nice like base information. You know, there's some stuff in here like really doctory type of stuff, but to me that's something I'm going to speak to my own doctor about. But yeah, there's loads of different things, like there's something about smiling, cooing. Do you have a challenging baby? I hope not. You know, waking up for nighttime feeds, and there's all sorts of different bottle feeding. There's loads of different information in there, so if you kind of just want a bit of a base information on something that you can read, to then be able to take away and kind of do a bit more experimenting on, or even a bit more research on, if you feel like something's really resonated with you, then at least you can go off and do a bit more research for yourself. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been a little bit of a highlight to what I'm reading, what I'm, you know, not reading, and why I'm reading things. So if, like me, not sure if you want to read any books at all, these are just the ones that I've picked, and you know, generally a lot of them came from a charity shop, so make sure you scour those first. Places like charity shops are really great because they obviously have a lot of books for cheap, and they're a good place to pick up things, especially if you're not sure you want to really splash out on anything major. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you check out the rest of our Mum Needs to Know videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.